Hello and welcome to aidsmapWOMEN. This broadcast has been very kindly sponsored by Gilead Sciences. I'm thrilled to be joined by an absolutely extraordinary panel of women who will be discussing the importance of resilience of women living with HIV. And I'm going to bring people on one at a time for introductions. So first of all, can we bring on Silvia Petretti?
Hello, hi Susan. Thank you for having me.
So wonderful to have you on and looking fabulous. I hear you're wearing shoes as well.
Here they are, matching.
I didn't. So Silvia is the CEO of Positively UK, a charity led by and run by people living with HIV. Silvia's been living with HIV for 24 years and has advocated for people living with HIV for so many years, including being on the global network of people living with HIV and representing people at the United Nations. Is that right?
Yes, that was a few years ago, but yeah.
And that's fantastic. And you also sit on the WHO advisory board for women and HIV, which is brilliant. So thank you very much, Silvia. So if we can next have on Angelina Namiba.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Angelina. So you're going to do that show your feet thing that Silvia did?
No, I'm not, because I'm wearing animal print house slippers, actually.
Very attractive indeed. So Angelina has over 24 years experience of working with HIV across a wide range of initiatives. Angelina is one of the founding members of the 4M network of mentor mothers and sits on a wide variety of national and international boards, including being a trustee of the National AIDS Trust, and you're a patron of the National HIV Nurses Association. So lots of things. So Angelina, do you have any new interests that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh yes, I do. And it's not what you're thinking about, Susan. Nothing exciting at all. Basically, I've just literally developed a love for reading. I'm completely addicted to reading novels. It's almost like my daily sleeping pill these days.
Fantastic. And yeah, are they all above board novels? Racy novels?
Some of them are racy. In fact, busy.
Well, I look forward to you sharing some of these books with me. So thank you. See you in a sec. If we can next have on Memory Sachikonye. Hi, Memory. Wonderful to have you on. So Memory's been living with HIV since 2002. You coordinates the UK Advisory Board, is a member of the European AIDS Treatment Group, and is the community representative on the POPPY study, which is the first large-scale study on health outcomes on people living with HIV 50 and over in England and Ireland. So fantastic to have you on. So
thank you.
Memory, what have you been up to recently?
Well, as somebody who was shielding, I stayed in lockdown 1, completely indoors, didn't even go out of the door for like 4 months. Lockdown 1.5, I decided to start walking, and I've been walking every 5 days a week for about 8.5 kilometers a day, and I just feel wonderful.
That is absolutely brilliant. Excellent. Well done you. I sort of like walk about my house a little bit, so I might follow you on that. So thank you, Memory. See you in a sec. And finally, if we can have Dr. Vanessa Apea.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Vanessa. Wonderful to have you on again. Vanessa is a HIV and sexual health doctor at Barts NHS Trust. And this is the third time that you've been on aidsmapWOMEN. So
very honoured.
Wonderful to have you back on. I know in the first episode you talked about hiding from your kids in the bathroom and having bubble baths. Have you still been doing that?
I haven't lived that down at home either. I do sometimes, but I have to say, just listening to memory. So I bought a bike and I've been starting to ride in the evenings after work. And it's been my de-stressor, so I'm loving it. Yeah, so that's my new thing that's been happening in life.
Wonderful, brilliant. Great. So if I can have everyone back on, please. Wow. Check out modern technology. So first of all, I'd like to ask, Angelina, what does resilience mean to you as a woman living with HIV?
Thanks, Susan. Well, for me, resilience as a woman living with HIV, in a way, it's kind of like I've had sort of two lives living with HIV, because I was diagnosed in the early 90s when we didn't have the wonderful treatment that we have right now. So for me, resilience back then was just keeping on going despite receiving an HIV diagnosis, because a lot of us at the time when we were giving a diagnosis, it was just like you had 6 months to live. So it was carrying on without knowing what your prognosis was going to be like. We attended so many funerals during those times, and you just like, every time you went to one, you were thinking, that's going to be me, in a short while. So for me, my main thing in terms of what kept on me going was like, I just want to reach the age of 30. And I just kept on going and going and going. So when I got to 30 and after 30, it became like a bonus every year. So that was my resilience back then. My resilience now is also just keeping on going despite all the myriad of challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, and just appreciating each day as it comes.
Wonderful, thank you. And Vanessa, would you say that there are health benefits to resilience?
Definitely, because I think that resilience really impacts how you engage with healthcare, how you access healthcare. Resilience can determine, given an example of having the energy to go out walking and to say that I want to take control of the situation and I want to go for a walk. And times where you feel that you don't have much resilience and you're not able to cope, then at that point, it's much easier to then curl up and hide from the world and then not get involved in things that can really promote your health. And having a better and a calmer mindset about things really determines how we engage with life day to day. So I think definitely it does impact your health.
Fantastic, thank you. And Memory, have you experienced any health challenges, and what's helped you overcome them?
Well, besides being diagnosed late and by chance, while I was going through the shock of accepting my HIV diagnosis, I got diagnosed with kidney failure, which I wasn't aware that I had. So I was dealing with the HIV. I didn't worry too much about the kidney disease because I was quite ill alone with HIV. So I just tried to carry on and manage my life day by day. I was lucky enough, though, to go to Positively Women then, where I sort of found that I could actually live. And from then on, I didn't turn back. So having to deal with two chronic conditions has been a challenge, but I'm one person who just takes everything in their stride. I look at the things that I have around me. I have good care. I've got good peer support. I've made great friends in the sector, and all that sort of keeps me going. I know where to go and mourn, and that people will listen to me. And I know people who can cheer me up when I'm supposed to be feeling miserable. So I just managed to take everything in my strides and just carry on.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And Angelina, have you experienced any health challenges recently?
Boy, have I experienced health recently. I think some of you on the panel will know I've had really challenging time of late, whereby I was a hospital inpatient for about 6 months in 5 different hospitals across London. So the Homerton, the Royal London, the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, UCL, and the Malvern Mission Hospital. So I was undergoing investigation for a lump that was found behind my neck. And I'm still not out of the woods yet, so they're still doing investigations. However, it was a really challenging time. And it was, as you can imagine, it was really hard to cope with, first of all, not knowing what it was and still undergoing the investigations. But, like memory, you just keep going. And I just want to just take this opportunity, because I haven't actually had a chance to do so, to say a huge thank you to all the NHS staff that I encountered along the way, both the auxiliary staff and the clinical staff, and also my daughter, who kind of willed me on to leave, thinking about, because there are times I got to a point where I was thinking, am I even going to come out of this? But knowing that she was there, she was on her own, I just thought, you know what, I need to keep going. And I want to thank everybody. I mean, there's so many people who helped me and supported me along the way. But I also want to say a very special thanks to 3 people, Rebecca, Angela, and my niece Amanda. And they know, what you did. But yeah, so you just having all these people and all this support and knowing that everybody's going out of their way to look after you just kept me going.
Oh, wow, wonderful, thank you. And Silvia, what challenges do you think women living with HIV face as they get older?
Why do you ask me? How would I know?
You've heard about it, obviously.
Well, I have heard. I mean, growing older, it's a fact of life. It will happen to all of us. And it happens to women with HIV and women without HIV. And I think for a lot of us, it's almost. I mean, for me, I was diagnosed just, a few days before my 30th birthday, and I never thought that I would be, that I would grow old, that I would grow older. So, growing older, in a way, it's a blessing, it's a surprise, and I wish I had known, so I would have used more moisturizer. But apart from that, I thought, I had no future, so I could just live the rock and roll life without consequences. But I think that for women living with HIV, the thing for many of us, we've been on treatment for a few decades. We have this virus in our body, and some of the symptoms of the menopause and of aging can come a little bit of a surprise. And it's very difficult sometimes to understand, maybe what is the menopause or what is the aging-related symptoms, and what it might be, maybe something that is linked to having HIV or your treatment. And, and I think for women, I think that, to be honest, today, I think that as a woman with HIV, my challenge getting older, apart from, maybe some of the questions I might have around treatment and how it interacts with some of the symptoms of the menopause, I think are the same challenges as for any other woman. As you get older, your role changes. You're not like the little, the little thing that can just jump here and there, never get.
I think you.
You should have seen me earlier on, a few decades ago. I think that your energy levels change and your role in society changes, and you're seen in a different way. And sometimes that is not a negative thing. I think I feel that I can be much more authoritative now as an older woman. I can really stand in my power much more than I could when I was younger. So I would like also to say that aging is not all doom and gloom if you can accept that it's happening to you, and it's a blessing in a way, because the alternative would have been dying of AIDS, which was also would have happened to me. So I think that that's my key message. I don't think that there is a huge difference between women living with HIV and women living without HIV in terms of aging. And the best thing we all do is accepting it.
Absolutely, I think that is just so important. But as women living with HIV get older, I think there's potentially other health conditions that people may develop. Have people experienced ever being ping-ponged between multiple healthcare providers? So like going to your GP, who sends you to your clinic, and then on to another specialist. Has this been people's experience at all?
Can I answer that?
Yes,
I feel like at this point in my life, I feel like every body part is a consultant. I have an HIV consultant. I have a chest consultant for my lungs. I have a renal consultant. I have a dermatologist. What else is left? Just maybe my heart. But yeah, you feel, I mean, like I see, I don't know, different consultants at every so many times of the year. So yes, you feel like you're going through seven people, seven healthcare professionals to get your act together, plus the GP, of course, who is in charge of other things. So yes, you feel like you're being sent here and there. Every body part needs its own X-ray. This one needs a scan. This one needs everything. You are being poked and probed everywhere as you get older. But I think it's something that you just have to accept and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vanessa, what would you recommend people do? Say if they go to their GP and they say, oh, actually, I can't, that's not for me, you should speak to your HIV clinic, etc. When things like that happen.
Yeah, so I think there's many layers to it. So, and just picking up on what Memory said, because it is about, that is the system, unfortunately, as it is, in terms of having to go to lots of different people. But the other issue is that do feedback, because services need to be built around the people that are using them. And so if that's your experience, that, you know what, I'm tired, I'm seeing all these different consultants, and it would be refreshing if I could see 2 or 3 at the same time, because we're doing more of that. We're doing more multidisciplinary clinics. So I think that's really important. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up. And I think that the GP and the issue with GPs often just saying, go to your HIV consultant, I think it's an ongoing issue. And I think that different GPs function differently. Different GPs have different confidence in different settings. And so, again, what I would suggest that if they do say that, to speak to your HIV consultant, but then also tell your HIV consultant your experience at your GP. Because I know that when I've had times when I've been looking after someone and I know that it could have been very easily been managed in the GP, so they wouldn't have had to come to the clinic earlier, I've fed back to the GP really kindly and said that this could have been managed. Was there a reason not? Can I do anything to support in terms of training, education, etc.? Because we need to make sure that wherever anyone accesses care, that they get the best that they can, and also they feel supported and welcomed at that space. So I would say just feedback your experiences, because that's the only way that we can get better.
No, absolutely. And what about migrant women? Has anyone experienced any challenges there in relation to healthcare?
I did actually. Before, I was in the UK and took a little while to get my papers in order. And while I was waiting, I couldn't access a GP. This was way back in about 2003, 4, and thereabout. I couldn't access a GP because they wanted a passport, which I didn't have. It was with the Home Office. So fortunately, my lovely HIV consultant, who I also call my husband, of 19 years now, was kind enough to kind of do the GP role for me, because the GP just said, no, we can't register you without a passport. So I wonder now, I don't know what the system is like these days, where you have to have a GP to get your blood pressure tablets and other tablets. I don't know how migrant women are coping now, if that's still the case, or do GPs just accept them without any paperwork?
Yeah, so what is the situation, Vanessa?
I can answer that. And actually, I was doing a recent workshop with Positively UK about this, and I learned more and more about the guidance, because it is complicated. But just to be really clear that everyone in England, regardless of immigration status, is entitled to free primary care. So they're entitled to go to a GP. And in that situation that's just been described, where if you someone is waiting for their papers or their passport is with the Home Office, they can still access the GP. Normally, when you register with a GP, you need to give evidence of proof of address or an ID. And so some people think, oh gosh, I haven't got proof of address or my ID, what can I do? GPs can now register you, and they don't need your residence. They can use their details as an address, or it can be a mosque or a church or a community space that they can send posts to that can be used. So what I would encourage people is that there's a really good website that it's Patients Not Passports, or Doctors of the World, and there are these My Access to Healthcare rights cards, and on that it makes it really clear what rights someone has, so that if you do go to a GP and they're saying, oh, we can't see you, then sometimes it's hard to verbalize it. So carrying the card and saying, this is your responsibility to me, I have a right, can be really empowering. So I would urge everyone to know that. And as I said, Doctors of the World is a really fantastic resource to go to get more information.
Wonderful. And people can get HIV treatment free of charge, regardless of their HIV status, regardless of their immigration status. Is that right?
Exactly. And people can have access to maternity care, regardless of their immigration status. Many people are really worried about payment charges, etc. And there are specific situations in which that arises, but primary care is definitely free. HIV treatment is free. Sexual health management is free as well.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. But I'm hearing a lot from women that they're experiencing HIV-related discrimination within healthcare settings. Has anyone experienced that or heard about it happening to women that you've worked with?
I went to my renal clinic way back when I was still in law clearance, before I went to dialysis, then transplant. And there was a locum, and the locum just looked at my notes and asked me if I, oh, how did you get your HIV? So me being me, I just said to her, well, I don't think this is relevant to what I'm here for. My HIV is well controlled. I think we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, fantastic.
She looked at me and carried on.
Good. Well done. So it's really important to be empowered and to stand up for your rights if people are saying that. And then just generally, despite the huge progress that we've made in relation to HIV, particularly with treatment, and the fact that people on effective treatment it's impossible to pass the virus on to sexual partners that we call U equals U. However, we still see quite a lot of discrimination and stigma around HIV. Has anyone experienced that, and how have you dealt with it?
To be honest, I haven't really experienced the stigma, or if I have experienced it, I haven't noticed it, but that's probably because I've always been very open about my status. And I think one of the things, in a way, what made me start doing that, earlier on it was really difficult, obviously, but as the years went by, it became much easier, was I just thought, first thing is that if I tell somebody that I'm living with HIV and they don't like it, then actually they're not paying my bills, they're not feeding me, they're not educating my child, they're not doing anything for me. So if you don't like me simply because I'm living with HIV, which is a virus, then that really is your issue. And so maybe if somebody would have discriminated against me because of it, I haven't noticed, because I've just carried on and thinking, well, I'll keep those in my life who are okay with me about it. My family have accepted me, and they did for a long time ago. I've got a good support network of friends. So if somebody simply doesn't like me just because I have HIV, then actually that's their issue and not mine. That's the attitude that I take anyway. But, I have to be honest and say, I do appreciate that, I can do that because I have somewhere to live and I have family, and I won't go hungry if I don't have anything to eat. I have friends I can go to and get something to eat. But I'm acutely aware of the fact that there are lots of other women who are both emotionally, economically dependent on their partners or their families for their survival. And for them, sometimes being able to talk about their status can be a big issue, and they could mean the difference between having something to eat and somewhere to live. And so I think I am acutely aware of that. But in terms of me, my attitude is that, well, if you don't like me because I have HIV, then actually that's your issue, not mine.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And women with HIV seem to be more likely to experience gender-based violence. What advice would you give to a woman with HIV who may be experiencing that, particularly during lockdown?
Well, I think going back to the question of stigma, I think that there is an aspect of stigma that is very deeply linked to gender-based violence, and there's also the way that, obviously, the men might perceive you differently, but I think that a lot of women, self-esteem and confidence can be really challenged after a diagnosis, and you just feel, that you got this virus that is sexually transmitted, and there are certain judgments and certain assumptions even made around your morality and how you got it, and very often women lose a lot of confidence and a lot of self-esteem, and that means that even within, and that's something that I experienced personally, that even when you are in a relationship, sometimes you let things happen that maybe you wouldn't have let them happen if you didn't have HIV, if you had that confidence in that belief and you didn't have that kind of internalized stigma that maybe because you have HIV you have to settle for something that is not as good as what you really deserve. What I have to say to women that are experiencing any kind of abuse and violence, or any relationship that kind of makes them feel less of what they are, is that the first thing is to talk about it and find a way of recognizing and getting your feelings validated. And there is a lot of support out there, from peer support from an organization like Positively UK, but also specialized gender organizations that support women through violence. Because for a lot of us, when we experience something that is abusive and violent, sometimes the sense of shame and it's very difficult to even identify it and accept it. And you really need somebody to listen to you and to validate that what you're going through is unacceptable. And that's why support services are so crucial for women to be able to move out of an abusive situation. And especially during lockdown, I know that there is a lot of support services. They even have internet support that you can kind of close the web page very quickly, or you can send messages through WhatsApp, because a lot of women in lockdown, they're locked with the abuser. And it's very, very hard, to reach out for support in that case. But I would encourage any woman who's experiencing a relationship that is abusive in any way to talk about it and reach out, talk about what is going on, and realize what is happening through that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And can anyone recommend any organizations where women can get help?
Yeah, there's Women's Aid, who have links to lots of different organizations that can support them. And I think there's also an NHS initiative in pharmacies called ANI, which is ANI, but also sounds like Annie, which means action needed immediately. So if women are in a pharmacy and they need support, they can just say the word Annie, and the pharmacists display the poster saying that they joined up into that initiative. They can just say that and then they will be supported. But there's lots, but Women's Aid provides a whole list of support services that women can go to in different ways.
Okay. I would also recommend Rights of Women. They're really, really good for any legal issue. If you have any assets, legal problem as well in living they've got really, really good advice and lawyers that they can refer you to. So Rights of Women, definitely.
And there's also an app, Bright Sky app, which supports women that are experiencing any abuse as well. So that's also something with good resources as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Silvia, how important is peer support in building up resilience in the face of challenges?
I think, you know, especially for a condition like HIV, which is often, as you know, as we were saying before, stigmatized and still carries a certain amount of shame and difficulties. I think, you know, peer support is really key. It has been very key for myself, and I think key for most of the other women in this room. And it's just like meeting somebody who's had that lived experience, who knows what it is like to walk in the room and receive an HIV diagnosis, who knows what it is like, you know, to start a relationship and telling, you know, maybe your potential partner what it is, you know, that you're living with HIV. It's like having somebody that's walked on in the same fabulous shoes you're walking in. It's key to have the skills to live with this virus for the rest of our lives. As well, to peer support, a lot of the information that you might get in the clinic from the doctor, that may be like technical or scientific. For me, what's really important to talk to other women and have somebody explain to me how HIV works, how treatment works. And even there, I could go back to my doctor and ask certain questions and, you know, and change my treatment. I remember, you know, my first treatment was about 18 pills a day. It was the late 1990s. And you know, I just accepted that I had to take all those pills and have a lot of side effects. And it wasn't until I went to a support group and the woman there was like, "Oh, you're taking still 18 pills. You could just take, you know, 2 pills a day now. You know, go back to your doctor and talk to them." And it wasn't until, you know, I had that conversation with the woman and I thought, "Oh, okay, I can do that." So I think that, you know, peer support is key for women and anybody living with HIV to learn the skills to live their lives with this virus.
Fantastic. And what other initiatives have you worked on that's helped women with their self-esteem?
Well, one of the initiatives that has been for me one of the most amazing I have been into is an initiative called Catwalk for Power, and this is it's like it sounds like a bit like, you know, maybe superficial, but it's about we have you know, we came out with this idea that, you know, very often as women living with HIV we are always portrayed as victim, as powerless, as you know, like, you know, living with this terrible virus and you know, and very often we don't find a platform in which we can express ourselves in a way that, you know, express our wholeness, not just as a carrier of a virus, but, you know, as a whole beings. And the Catwalk for Power was this idea of having an event that centered around a runaway in which we would wear whatever we felt that made us look fabulous, represented who we were. And in the process of creating the event, we would have certain number of workshops around our bodies, about intimacy, about telling our stories, and creating outfits and poems to perform together. And it was a way of using creativity, of using, you know, community building and being together, not just, you know, as women living with HIV, but not just to talk about HIV, but to create an event in which we could invite our family, friends, and talk about our lives more freely. And organizing this project and you know, being part of that, I just saw so many of us be completely transformed. You know, it wasn't just about, you know, that something happened in the creative act and in the performance and in the walking on this runaway, like you're in a world without stigma, that made women realize that actually we can walk into our world as if there is no stigma every single day. Is about, you know, the way that we feel inside, and it's about the community we belong to that can give us that strength. So it's, for me, it was very inspiring to be part of that.
Absolutely, so powerful. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, we aren't able to do that sort of thing at the moment during lockdown. And so, Angelina, what are you missing most during lockdown, and how are you dealing with that?
Gosh, I'm missing lots of things. I think some of the things I'm missing are just the human contact. You know, the traveling, the socializing with friends and family, you know, just general everyday little stuff that we take for granted all the time. But in a way, I've kind of found a way that certain things help me to cope really well. And 3 main things really help me to cope. So regular contact, routine and gratitude. And maybe I can explain a little bit more about this. I won't take too long, obviously. The regular contact is very much with my daughter and my family. I mean, WhatsApp has become a godsend in this climate, honestly. So talk to my doctor regularly with my family and my friends. And one thing that has really helped me in terms of regular contact with my friends is I have a group of 5 friends, and one of them is Memory, who's on the panel today. There's Memory, Charity, Rebecca, Winnie, and myself. We've got a group called Zook, which stands for Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Uganda in the UK. And what we do is since the lockdown started, the first lockdown, we've had a weekly Saturday Zoom call, and we just chat about everything, life, love, everything. We just talk about everything. We also, within that group, we decided that we needed to do a project to help us cope with lockdown. And so we decided to produce a photo book, which is really just about turning adversity into hope. And it's a journey of our friendships, of our activism, and also just really of our sisterhood. And it's right behind there on my shelf.
Great product placement.
I'm telling you. And we finished it within lockdown. It was amazing to actually have that product there. And the other thing we do within the weekly meetups that we have is we started a book club, a reading book club. So each one of us takes it in turns once a month to choose a book, and then we discuss it after a month, although we read other books in between, of course. So that's been really helpful. And then the routine one is just having routine, everyday stuff. I do the same things every day. And one of the things that I have within that is, of course, my new addiction, which is reading. So reading has become my new sleeping pill, to be honest with you. I can't sleep without reading a book. So I'm getting through about 4 or 5 books a month, which is not much for many people, but actually from going from not doing much of it to doing that regularly, it's been a really good thing. And the last thing that I do very much of now is I started a gratitude journal. So every day, I write down something that I'm grateful for. It can be something very small or something very big. Just every day, I write down something I'm grateful for. And that has really helped me to cope with the lockdown.
Oh, wonderful. And would anyone else like to share what's helped during lockdown?
I think I have to talk about my cats.
You're not a cat, Silvia.
Tell us about your cat, Silvia.
Mama.
I'm just very grateful. My grateful journal, if I had a grateful journal, I think every day I would write the name of my 3 cats in it, because they just, they just keep me company, and they have their personalities, and they know me so well. And I know I'm just a cat lady probably, but pets can be a great probably like 100%, but cats can be, pets I think can be a great source of support. And they are living beings, they're alive, and they can really connect with you. And then my other big thing has been I like Angelina, I think, having a routine. My routine is every morning I wake up, have my coffee, and do my yoga. And I kept my yoga practice throughout lockdown, even if it's maybe like, whatever I can do any day. I roll my mat, and even if I sit down on it and cry, I roll out my mat and I make the space for that kind of practice for myself. And I think that like walking from memory, having something that is just for you, for you and for your well-being. And it's part of the day, and it's non-negotiable.
Fantastic. And Vanessa, what would you recommend women do in terms of, navigating healthcare during lockdown?
I think that COVID, it was fast. How we responded as services was so fast, and there was so much change. And I think, we reflect, there were some good things that happened, but there are many things that, we could have done better, and we are trying to do better. And it's all about learning about what to do next. And so I would say that many services are interacting in different ways. So using more and more social media. I mean, I'm very bad at social media, but, they're on Twitter, they're on putting messages on Facebook, they're communicating with people via texts and emails, etc. But also, people are still in the clinics, and there are still people on the phone. And I would say that if you do need your service, please don't sit at home in anxious and thinking, gosh, I can't contact them, I've just got to wait to be contacted, and I'm worried because I haven't been contacted, please do feel that you can contact and call your clinics, because we are still there. And whilst I always say with anything in life, you can create something and generally the majority will take it up, but there is always a minority that won't and can't. And we are always trying to support that minority, but also support the minority to know that they can access us as well and contact us at any time. So please do contact if you're not feeling that you're getting the care that you need, because we need to know, definitely.
Okay. Wonderful, thank you. And just one final question for everyone. I mean, women with HIV are so often busy looking after other people, and then potentially not taking care of themselves. So if we can go around and say, one piece of advice to a woman in terms of, a bit more self-care, what would you recommend? I will start with you, Vanessa.
Yeah, no, I think many different things, because it depends what you enjoy. For me, it's having the time to do my eyebrows, but it's I think it's I'm failing, as you see at the moment, but I think it is about taking the time to know what's important to you, because I think as women we don't often, sometimes we lose who we are and what we enjoy, and it's creating the space to think about that, and then creating the space to give yourself at least 10 minutes of the day to do what you enjoy, and prioritize yourself. And when we say prioritizing, it doesn't need to take months, weeks, etc. Just a small time in the day where you are number one. And that's what I would suggest.
Okay, brilliant. Silvia?
Oh, where to start? Yeah, I mean, everything that Vanessa said, because, each and every one might love different things and might find, purpose and joy in different things. So I cannot say, oh, do that and that's going to work for you. But, just have make sure that there is time in your day for some things that gives you joy, makes you alive, and it's just for you, that is not for someone else. And another thing that I told myself, stop saying sorry this, sorry that, like apologize for things that you want to do, or, you have a right to be happy. We have a right to be happy. It's not negotiable. So make time for it, and, whatever it is.
Thank you. Memory.
Well, like everybody else has said, I think it's important to take time for yourself. I take like 90 minutes in the morning to walk. It's my space, it's my time. I have my headphones on, listening to music that you would all never want to hear, but it's me, that's what I want to hear. So it's like my time for me. Watch that Netflix if you have it, watch TV if you have to, take an hour and watch rubbish TV. For me, that's self-care, I don't have to think, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just sitting here and just, seeing what's going on in the world. So I think just taking time to do something for yourself is very important.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you. And finally, Angelina.
Oh gosh, thank you, Susan. I think for me, it's just about, in particular, in terms of even aging with HIV, just celebrate each day, look upon each day as a gift. We're lucky to be here, so just enjoy it. And also, I think it's really important to do things that make you happy and don't apologize for them. But do what pleases you within reason, of course. And I think just live your best life for you. That would be my
wonderful. Oh my goodness, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with me. That was just so wonderful and so powerful. I'd like to thank Disruptive Live for their technical wizardry and making this happen, Gilead Sciences for sponsoring this event, and all of the women living with HIV who've spoken to me about their concerns to make this broadcast possible. Thanks again, everyone.